What's up, everybody? Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless with another episode on the Space Reverse Engineers series. I am probably going to discuss a few things related to the channel and stuff after this episode. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out for that kind of stuff, because my podcast thing didn't really get as many viewership things as I would have liked, so it means a lot of people probably didn't hear about some of the announcements in it. So stick around for that towards the end of the video, but for now, let's get started on the main event, which is the Orbital Elevator. So this was the most voted on build from the last Inspiration episode, so I'm going to go ahead and break it down, probably most notably for the Orbital Elevator mechanics. I mean, that's probably the biggest reason. I do like these little guys, though. Little, like, railing end cap things. This is kind of cool, which is just interior pillars with regular blocks, I suppose. I also like... I think I'm starting to develop a pattern where it's like I like these kinds of ridge panel type things, type designs. Now this is a little interesting though. I wanted to point this point this out. This is done, if I can get a welder. Okay, so this is done with using the 2x1 ramps, as we've seen, and then there's that offset style where you go up one, and so that's what this is for. But what I thought was interesting was adding the stairs into the 2x1 ramp, because they're essentially the same size, it's just, it adds more texture and detail to it, which is pretty cool. And then we've got these different shapes on the top, which are made from different half blocks and things. So it all adds a little bit more detail work done to the... Oh, this is another example of that raised up or offset style, which is really cool and very effective. Yeah, there's some cool stuff in here that is just like little decorative things like this. I don't know that this really serves too much of a purpose, even in like a role-playing sense. It's probably supposed to be a ship dock or something, but it's just really just blocks with half blocks on them. This is a cool idea, adding the stairs on the outer edge of a ramp section. Almost, I mean, I'm assuming this is supposed to be the actual walkway, but it almost makes it look like they're handrails or something, which is kind of cool. Now, the interesting part for this is going to be the actual, I'll call it a train car, because I don't really know what else to call it. Because... obviously, it's kind of the main event, main attraction to what makes this build interesting in terms of functionality. So let's get down in here and see what we can find. So we've got a couple of landing gears here, though I believe, I'm not 100% on this, but I believe that would be for if you were bringing... Oh, that's what this is for. I'm a dummy. So this is for bringing up vehicles. These are for people. Duh. And then when you bring the vehicles up here, like a Jeep or something like that, you can park it here and the landing gears will clamp it down. So, a little bit of a dum-dum assessment on my part. We've got the, looks like 2x1 bases on the side, and then a regular block leading to slopes. And then, what, a full block? Oh, now this is interesting. They're using a inverted corner base. Oh, I see. Now that's an interesting kind of shape and style. That's kind of cool. I never would have thought to try that, but that works. Alright. And we've got the regular window. Are these still called windows? I really don't think they should be. Yeah, vertical and diagonal windows. So we've still got the windows as kind of like a handrail type setup. So let's go down here and look more at the mechanics here. So we have a connector here that's going to sync up the cargo crate with the base. Also, well, I was going to say it also acts as another clamp, but they've got merge blocks down here, so that's not really necessary. Now, as for this, so obviously the pillar has to be separate from the main ship. Otherwise it wouldn't work. So The pillar goes down there. I see some openings here, though. I don't know if this is for anything or not. That's weird. It's like in a plus shape, and there's what looks like ice, but there's no connector, dump off point, anything like that, so I'm not really sure what purpose that serves. We've got landing gears here, I think. Though... Oh, that's a wheel suspension. That's not a landing gear. Okay. I'm not 100% sure if this isn't using some super hypergrid tomfoolery or not, because typically there's not a lot in the game that will make this flicker texture thing. That's usually when collision boxes, not collision boxes, but the actual object is overlapping. There are a couple of blocks that can do it, but for the most part in standard vanilla they don't happen very often, so I'm wondering if there's a bit of hypergridding going on here. It doesn't really look like it though, because it's like, well, yeah, that's all part of the suspension, isn't it? There might be, yeah, that definitely seems like there is, because I don't think you should pass through that part. I don't know. I don't know if that's a hypergrid or not. It would affect how someone could recreate this build, though, if they're using the hypergrid type stuff, because, well, then you can't recreate it without doing some black magic. But basically, we've got what looks to be about 4 wheels. So we've got 2 on each side, and then we go to the other direction, and we've got 2 on each side. So that's holding down the bottom. And I don't know, I haven't worked with wheels enough, but I'm guessing you have to set the tension stuff and things a certain way. Let's actually see if we can identify that. Let's just grab, I don't know if all these will be the same or not. So we have enable sensitivity on brake input, air shock, that's new. I haven't worked with wheels in a long time, so this may not be new, but it's new to me. Automatically increase the strength of suspension spring when it is about to land hard. That's interesting. Let's try this. These have C's on them. I'm wondering if that is being controlled by the C key through a, I don't know, some kind of script or something. Invert propulsion, invert the propulsion directions, so that's basically a reverse wheel. I didn't know you could do that. So that's, they've added some of this recently, because I don't remember those being options. Power strength, height offset, friction is 100. Regulates wheel friction by changing pressure in the tire. Speed is unlimited. Propulsion override, steer override. Okay, so the friction part is, I think, the more important, and then these options are probably, I think the rest of these are probably going to be mostly default, maybe? Maybe not. These are set a little differently, so I guess there is some of them are frictionless, some of them aren't, and I don't really know enough about these to feel comfortable pointing out why those are set up the way that they are, but it looks like there's basically 2 sets. There's either the frictionless that have some different various settings, or there's the ones that are full friction, and I'm imagining some of these are done for cushion and some of them are done for propulsion, is probably why that's set up the way that it is. That would be my guess. But again, wheels and stuff are not my forte, so I wouldn't really feel comfortable pointing out exactly how all that works. It's set up that way, but I don't know entirely why. And then we've got another, essentially the same idea here, that we've got 2 wheels on each direction, then you go up a layer, and if I can get up a layer, and then they're facing the other direction. And there's 2, and they're kind of staggered. And it looks like we've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of wheels to complete the whole shebang. And then we've got this cool kind of decorative. It's using slopes and half blocks and half slopes and things like that to give it a little bit more of an artistic style. But you've got the outer ring, essentially, with the merge blocks and things on it with a camera, so that when you get up to the top, you don't do what I did, which was go full speed and just slam into the ceiling, because that's not how that works. It's not the most effective way to dock your ship. The rest of this, I think, is cosmetic. It's mostly the wheels that are what's making everything tick. That, and there's probably at least one programmable block with a script running that's controlling the wheels or something, because... Well, no, I guess you may not need it, because you can control wheels through a control station, like you can thrusters and things, so these all just are probably on the same grid, so you can just use the cockpit, I suppose. But, and then we've got this cool decorative stuff here. Now, this is actually interesting, because once again, all it is half blocks, but it adds a lot of detail to it when you've got a pillar going up through the middle, and then some half blocks on the sides, and then a ring. You know, it gives it a little bit more of a decorative design. Now, the one part I'm not sure about in this whole build is what these rotors are for. I noticed this on my inspiration episode, where every little bit there's another set of rotors, and I don't know why, since then they're attached to the rest of the ship, or not the ship, the grid. So it's not like it can rotate or anything like that. So I don't know what purpose having two rotors here serves. Other than potentially spacing. That's the only thing I can think of, because like I said, this ends up going up, and then, well, actually, let me confirm that. I'm gonna go ahead. Well, let's poke around at the rest of the base here for a second, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cut it and take the elevator up to the top, and then we'll explore the top part. I do like this little helipad area here too. That's a nice little touch. Let's see what else. This is a cool little area if you're looking for more greeble type decorative stuff. This actually isn't 100% greeble because it's green, so this is connected to the system somehow, probably under the ground. But since these are red, I'm guessing these aren't attached to any assemblers or anything like that, so those are just for show. But solar panel area is kind of cool looking. This area is pretty neat. I like it. It's just kind of another little decorative comm tower type thing. What's this? Nothing. Just another decorative piece. So yeah, it's got a lot of little details here and there, which makes it look pretty accurate or lived in kind of thing, if you want to put it that way. I like this effect. This is kind of cool. They put ore detectors on the side and then ran blast door edges, and so it looks more like a pin or a pillar kind of design, which is pretty cool. And the other thing that I wanted to take a look at is this guy. This is actually a pretty neat bridge. The reason I like it is because it's not very noticeable. When you get here, it looks... the transition is pretty seamless. Where you've got the wall here and the ramp, and then when you walk down, you just kind of walk onto a platform, and then it looks like there's nothing else there. But then when you open it, it just kind of extends. Now, part of that's being blast door blocks because of the collision things. Though I have heard, I didn't know this, but Keen apparently added a subgrids can't damage each other, and I did not know that it meant stuff like pistons and rotors and things. I thought it meant something else. I don't know what I thought it meant. I think I was thinking, like, if you put a rotor and then built something, and then when you got over too close to an edge and they kind of do that little shimmy bounce jitter thing. I was thinking that meant it wouldn't damage or break it, but I guess the more accurate way to put it is that now you can do stuff like this, which is... yeah, the edge of the collision box for these is not altered, it's the sides. So this should be scraping the edge, but it's not. And I'm guessing that's from that new collision box thing. Also, like here, the piston head is not running along any blast door blocks like you would normally have to do, nor is it surrounded by it or anything like that. So that's something that I find relatively new. I don't remember when they added that, but I didn't know that's what it did. So I really do like that little bridge thing as well. Although, I don't know how you're supposed to retract it from inside the ship over here, and that caused a little bit of a problem when I tried to take it out in the inspiration episode. But anyways, let me cut this, and we're going to get up to the top part, and then we'll analyze how it looks from up there. I also want to check out a couple of the things from the pillar standpoint as well. Okay, so we're up here at the top, and found a couple of interesting things, though I'm not 100% sure why they happened when it didn't last time. One is that the lift actually got stuck on this right here, which I don't really know why. Because I don't recall it doing that before. But then again, I slammed into this before and everything blew up, so, you know, this may not have been there. But anyways, so if that wasn't getting stuck, then what would happen was you'd come up here. This isn't actually complete, which makes me think... I had to reload the save, apparently. I lost my welder. Which makes me think that this grid up here is actually not 100% the same frame that goes all the way down to the bottom. So, could be wrong, but that's why I'm interpreting this here, because otherwise I don't know why. Well, it's letting me place something there, so I'm not really sure why you wouldn't do a complete block there. It might have to do with the merge block situation, I'm not sure. But anyways, these would come up and they would lock in place there. And I actually figured out on the way up here what these rings do. Because as you can see, the reason I was confused is because, like this, they're attached, and then they're attached here. Which means all the way down on this end, they're attached. So why is there a rotor here? I'm still not really sure why there's a rotor there, to be honest, other than if they wanted to use the... Even about using the rotor displacement, it wouldn't matter because this is all a mounted point, unless this is attached. Nope, that's attached in the same spot. So I really don't know what the rotor's for. The rings, however, are kilometer markers. I just now realized that. So every time I was watching the distance there to our location, it was about the same. It was about a kilometer between each one. And there was another ring, and I realized they were kilometer markers. I still don't know why there's a rotor there. You could have just as easily done that without them. So I really can't figure out what those are for. It's been bugging me because I'm like, it's there. There must be a reason, but no, I can't find one. I don't know. The only thing I can think of was in the construction of the actual structure, it allowed them to displace it in some way, but then the rest of them should all be on rotors if that was the case, so I really don't get it. And then we've got this cool shipyard thing out here. I love the volumetric lighting that the spotlights have. At least I think that's what that is, when you get the cone ray kind of look to it. I could be wrong. I've only recently been introduced to the concept in 3D art stuff and 3D modeling of what that actually is in post-processing effects, so I could be misusing it. But I really like the spotlight cones that come out, especially in moody builds, where if you put blocks down below it, you get the grating from the spotlight. I think that's really cool too. But yeah, this is mostly just aesthetic Greeble stuff kind of thing. We've got, you know, some blast door edges, a couple little indentions, little different detail works, color codes. Oh, that's kind of cool. Actually, makes it look more like a construction area kind of thing. Got lights, that kind of stuff. Nothing too fancy in the actual structural design or anything like that. But yeah, I really like this. This is a pretty cool concept. I've always liked the idea, because of how difficult it is, in my opinion anyway. I have a hard time with it, to build ships capable of leaving the atmosphere on their own thrusters kind of thing, and not having to do like the NASA rocket booster type things. So I have always liked the orbital elevator idea to get you up past the gravity and into a station and then go from there, and it frees up all of your thruster systems to where they can just fly with either atmospheric or no resistance, but they don't have to try and transition. So there's been a few of these orbital elevators, but I think this is probably one of the better ones that I've seen, with the exception of a couple of little things I can't quite figure out, like what got this stuck. And there was at one point I was going about half speed, and one of the wheel sections just busted. You can see the damage here. I don't really know why. I wasn't like trying to move the mouse or hit any keys that wasn't just forward, so I don't know what happened there. But other than a couple of those little issues here and there, I think this is probably one of the better orbital elevators that I've seen in recent memory. But yeah, we got all of this stuff up here, and I really like... Oh, now this is cool. This is... Wait, is this what I think it is? Yes, it is. I think. Okay, this is trippy, but really cool if I'm getting this correct. It looks like there's two full blocks, but then they have two half blocks, but inverted and facing away from each other, so it creates an offset single block. That's really cool. It's essentially the same size now as a full block, but it's in the middle. That is really neat for doing like pillar type designs. That's super creative. I really like that. Because we've seen stuff like this before where you do a full block and then a half block to go a little lower, but that's more of an all the way around kind of shape. That's really neat. I like that. I've never seen that before. That's a cool little trick. This is also a nice little touch too. It looks like some kind of... I think it's supposed to be a hangar of some kind, but this is awful small, so I'm not really sure. But the LEDs with the colors on them, and then having the bases with the block in the middle back to back, makes for a nice little curved area. This is also a cool technique if you're trying to do lights on a sloped surface, is then putting a base without the ramp tip, and it gives you a surface you can build on that looks flat. Because I don't think they'll let you do... Okay, it will let you do the lights, but it'll overhang a little bit, whereas this looks a bit more... I think that looks better overall, because it looks like the light actually has a place to go. So that's pretty cool. Got a couple of turrets. I also like the connection point here, where you've got this light gray, and then the black that kind of connects the two. That's pretty cool. I like how that ends up looking. And then we've got our storage crate area over here with conveyors and assemblers and whatnot. This is an interesting use of catwalks. I've seen this before, but it is pretty cool if you're trying to hide conveyors, or at least make them look a little more aesthetically pleasing. So that's a pretty cool trick. I like this as well. I'm guessing these... maybe? No. Okay. I was thinking they might be on pistons, but they're not. I don't really know why that's that low, but the idea is cool. I like the border around it. And this is kind of interesting. Now, I'm not as big of a fan of how that indents, and so it isn't like full all the way around. It kind of tapers off and leaves a gap. But from a distance, though, it creates a cool way to get that nice little beveled edge by using the inverted corner tips there. I feel like there may be a different way to do that may circumvent this little gap thing, but I don't know. Could be wrong. But from a distance, like I said, that's a pretty cool way of doing it because it does give that little bevel to it. But with that, I think that's all the points I really wanted to make. So I think we're essentially going to call it quits for the reverse engineering part of the episode, but I did want to take a minute to talk to everybody about some behind the scenes and channel type stuff, because like I said at the beginning, I didn't get a very high view count on my podcast, which means a lot of people didn't hear about some of the announcements that were made in said podcast. If you want more details on that and more thoughts, you can go check that out. But the short version is that there's two things going on. I am obviously back from Christmas break. So Merry Christmas to everybody, by the way. Because actually, I didn't intend to do anything on Christmas, but I'm not recording this on Christmas Day, so I probably will end up releasing it anyway, so this may actually be a Christmas Day release. But there was some stuff that went on during my break that I wanted to let everybody know about. There was a death in the family that I believe it would be my great uncle, I think. It's my grandmother's brother, but essentially my parents have to take them to the funeral, but we're not sure when that is. Whenever that happens, I will have to probably take a break from doing my recording stuff so that I can keep track of my dog, since he can't come upstairs anymore, which is where I record, and I can't leave him unattended because of his leg. So, short version is, if they're gone on the couple of days that I record for the week, then it would affect my release schedule. So I will keep everyone apprised of that. But if you don't see any new episodes at a certain point, and then there's a post on either the... I know that YouTube now lets you do the post things, so I'll probably end up doing that. But again, a lot of this is in my podcast, so if you want the more nitty-gritty details, go check it out there. Short version is, there's a thing coming up at some point, we're just not sure when. And so whenever that happens, I may or may not be affected in my release schedule. Speaking of release schedule, I had some ideas, which again I went over in the podcast at length. But the short version is, I'm thinking of maybe doing a different setup of what content I'm putting out. It'll be the same schedule, like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm going to stick to 4 episodes a week. But the content I may end up changing. My current thing that I'm thinking of is keeping the Let's Play and the Inspiration series for Space Engineers, but taking out the Let's Build and this Reverse Engineer series and doing a Ashen Let's Play and a Subnautica Let's Play again. I'm probably going to put a poll in this video, so if you prefer... because I did put a poll in my podcast one, but again, I didn't get a lot of reactions from that, so it wasn't enough for me to go on. So I'm taking votes, if you will, this week, and then as next week is the new year, assuming that I'm able to record and the family stuff doesn't get in the way of that, one way or another, I will either keep the schedule I have if everybody votes for that, or I will change up and do what I was talking about. And again, I have more specifics in the podcast if you're wanting to know more of why and what process I reached from that. Go ahead and check that out in the podcast video. But I'm going to be running the poll for this week, and I'm going to be talking about this in every video for different people that only watch one series. So if it gets repetitive, I do apologize, but it's for somebody that they only watch the Inspiration or the Let's Play or whatever. And I wanted to bring it up specifically in the Reverse Engineers and the Let's Build because it directly affects those two series, because those would be the two that I might end up having to cut. If everybody wants to do that. I'm really excited about Ashen, but it basically comes down to, do I just do that on my own, or does it become a Let's Play series? And I know everybody liked Subnautica, and it seemed like something that would be fun to do. So again, there should be a poll here somewhere in this video. Check the cards tab, but leave your votes, and if you want to comment or whatever, that's fine as well. Try, though, not to do both if you're going to post, or just tell me you did or something, because otherwise it skews, and I think, you know, there's a vote here and then there's a comment here, and it can mess things up. So try and keep that in mind. But with that, we're going to wrap things up here for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I hope you all had are having a very Merry Christmas. Hey, by the way, if this is Christmas, what are you doing watching this? Go do Christmassy things. This is a YouTube video. It'll be here when you get back. So anyways, but yeah, I will see you guys next time. Peace.